Hello there everyone, Xantok here with Slickstar Gaming, and welcome back to some more Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. It's the final case and the final day. There's no more investigating, no more exploration, it's just court session. That's pretty much it. It's us versus Edgeworth. It's us trying to prove Lana is innocent, him trying to prove she really did it. Let's find out what's going to happen. It is now February 25th, 9:47 a.m., and we're in the defendant lobby at number 2. This is the defendant lobby, alright. But there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? And where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if something's been happening behind the scenes. Edgeworth. Knowing you, you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 777-7777 ID number is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt on this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True. Not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling on the defendant. 5 minutes after the trial starts, Lana will be found guilty. Remember the last time somebody told us the trial would be over in 5 minutes? That didn't go so well for them, did it? But she didn't do it! I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth. Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, right? I love how the two of them have this rapport now that they're trying to work together while also working against each other to figure out, alright, I'm trying to prove that my side is correct here, but I also want to find out what the hell really happened. This is it. If I'm ever going to find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. February 25th, 10 a.m. The courtroom opens. Court is now in session for the trial of Ms. Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. Normally? But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant? Morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Hey, Yaji, been back to the pool yet? What is this guy's obsession with swimming? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. Oh, that's a good one. Don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, exactly what is this proposal of yours? Lana, that is to say, the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. I mean, that seems pretty standard. I mean, I guess usually the defendant doesn't say a lot, because, you know, it's easy to pick them apart, but if they want to talk, let them talk. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. Lana, what's up? What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request, and I'll be finished. Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. What? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. No, you didn't. Bullshit. Utter bullshit. You are being coerced. You can't. Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. Lana! Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please. Well, the defendant clearly has the right to self-representation. Her request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise. This can't be happening! I don't even have a chance! It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant... Come on, Edgeworth. Ah, thank God. One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth? The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut? I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes? Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you would have me be. That is a direct confrontation. Oh, Edgeworth, I'm loving it. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal, Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness. Oh, to whom? As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Ms. Emma Skye. What? But she wasn't even there. Okay. I request the court hears her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to continue. I don't care what you think, Ms. Skye. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it. Plus, I mean, sure, you can waive your right to defense, but you can't waive the prosecution's right to do what the fuck they want. So, sorry, Lana, but no. Very well. The court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? I don't think he really has a say, but okay. Worthy, you'll live to regret this. Mark my words. Ms. Emma Skye, please, take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. We must have really gotten through to him. All about finding the truth. Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma Skye. My occupation? Well, I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator. You're also still in high school. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct? Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time. Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant? Yes. It most certainly is. So if I made that kind of claim, I had to prove evidence. Edgeworth can make the claim and be like, judge is like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? I'll listen to you. What the fuck, man? Well, okay then. He sure gave in fast. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. Alright, Emma, tell me about 2 years ago, please. We got some mysteries to uncover. I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me, but I'll never forget what I saw that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest. It's a good thing you weren't harmed. I passed out. I don't remember much. That's understandable. However, please, tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder? That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. Sure. Let's go. Alright, so you're waiting in her office. 2 years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct? Yes. She was second in command under Chief Detective Gant. My sister, she was the best detective ever. Yes, I remember. Chief Detective Gant and Ms. Skye used to be quite the pair. I believe they shared the same office. That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk and dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day too. The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day. Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work. Alright, so a man came in and took you hostage. A man. Yes, Joe Dark. He was a serial killer. Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of that ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest. When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right? Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Then, he ran into Skye in Gant's office. There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. That's when I saw him. Alright, so Neil rescued you. What was the prosecutor doing there? That day, there were 2 people present during Dark's questioning. Detective Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Gant was there too? Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony. I assume that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark. When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was as good as dead. But that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in? I don't clearly remember what happened then, but you'll never forget what you saw that instant. But you didn't tell the courts that last time. Can you tell us about that? Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Just then, the lights went out. The lights? It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on and lightning struck nearby. So the electricity went out. Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right? Right, but just then lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind. I see. I told the detectives about what I saw then. The detective? Yeah, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case. Detective Bruce Goodman, the victim. Tell me more. So, you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago? Yeah, that's what's so scary about this trial. And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw? Yes, but at the time, the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture. A picture? Yeah, I think she mentioned that before. Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough? Tell me about the picture. This picture the witness drew, I believe it has a very important meaning. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture. Witness, would you mind if we added the statement to your testimony? Yes, Your Honor. Alright, so you drew a picture of the scene, but it seems to have been lost. You drew a picture of the scene you witnessed, right? Yeah, I wanted to do everything I could to help the investigation. I can still see it now, whenever I close my eyes. That's strange. I took over the case after Prosecutor Marshall died, yet I never received any picture. Perhaps the witness is mistaken? But I did! I draw it, I swear! I'm not imagining it! This picture that Emma drew, that reminds me. I guess I should check the evidence again. Well, anyway, let's continue. The scene that imprinted an image in your mind. Could you please describe it to us? The man... Alright, so let's go back to the previous statement. We do have that picture that's being referred to here. We found it hidden away in Gant's office. It is the backside of this evidence list. Right here. So, let's present. Mr. Edgeworth. This little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet you still insist on denying its existence? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is that as the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold, this is the evidence list for the SO9 incident? Please, turn it over, Your Honor. Turn it over. Turn it... Ah, what's this? Looks like a drawing to me. Yes, what is that? Hey, that's it! That's the picture I drew! Indeed. 2 men appear to be wrestling here. What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list. These lists, they're different from each other. What? It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These 2 lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here, where they were torn apart from each other. So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? Order! Order! Who'd have thought the picture would have been drawn on the back of the list? That was handed to Detective Goodman in the questioning room. Wait a minute. If this list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor, are you alright, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head. If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list. That's a good point. Yes, that's quite conceivable. Mr. Edgeworth? It's possible. Let's see. Oh, he found some! Is something wrong? Do you even have to ask? Edgeworth had a little meltdown there. Sorry, Your Honor. There is something drawn on the back of my list. This is that thing The blue badger? What? That's that thing. That thing that was dancing in the evidence room. Apparently, the head of criminal affairs used this for his blueprint. I guess he was out of scrap paper. God damn it. Fucking blue badger, man. I want to go ahead and look at the full picture, though. See if it matches up at all. Or if it's just completely random. I mean, it doesn't look like it matches up. I mean, it kind of does, but that's a little weird. Huh. Well, I'm sure it'll be important at some point. Why else would it have happened? I don't know. Very well, witness. Would you please testify of this picture you drew 2 years ago? Huh? Oh, yes, sir, Your Honor. What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she saw the picture. Alright, Emma, tell me what you know. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. Yep, we know that. The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw that instant. Okay, that testimony is pretty solid. To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind. Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw. Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder prosecutor Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Okay, let's see here. All these statements check out. Well, she says this picture shows exactly what I saw that instant. Huh. Let's look at our evidence again. But I feel like if there's going to be anything, it's going to be this. What about the autopsy report? Stabbed in the... Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Didn't she tell us that he got stabbed in the chest? This says he was stabbed in the back and died from a punctured heart and lung. A knife tip was in the wound. Died from blood loss in under 10 minutes. Weapon found in the wound was missing tip. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. What? But I still remember it like it was yesterday. Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. The weapon? I mean, the way he's standing there? After the weapon doesn't have a tip? The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken. I mean, actually, I just see a rectangle, but I'm just rolling with it. I'll be honest. In fact, you don't even have to look too closely to see that. But, Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too. If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body. It was a conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer. I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma. Edgeworth, I am on a roll here, will you please? Where could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. What's the meaning of this? Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, Edgeworth, but I'm afraid that's just not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. The judge even just said that. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. That's right. But what does this mean? The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. I mean, that is a possibility. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already? About a little something called falsified evidence? You're treading on thin ice, Wright. All I'm saying is that this broken knife might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Ooh. That would change everything, wouldn't it? Order. Order. Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Kent. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story, there was a lie. I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife. If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife. What are the chances of there being two broken knives? I think I know where this other broken knife came from. Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. Could there have been one? Oh, there is. If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error. Mr. Wright, in that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume then that you have some information about this other broken knife? If so, please feel free to enlighten us. The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Alright, take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. As I shall remind, the original King of Prosecutors trophy had a knife-looking attachment on it that was broken, just like the shield is. The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Right here, inside this picture. This is a picture of the awards ceremony. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding? That's a broken knife. More or less. As we earlier concluded, the knife in the picture was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood this award. Order! Order! Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and a broken knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be. Oh? And why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors award knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. Oh! I mean, that kind of makes sense, actually. But then how did Neo die? But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions. Emma? Wait, I remember now. I remember everything. Witness? Mr. Edgeworth. What is it? Could you show me your evidence list again, please? His list? The one with that picture scribbled on the back? Alright, what about the Blue Badger? I knew it! This picture! I'm the one who drew it. You drew the Blue Badger? You drew that? That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time, I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me. Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Ms. Skye? Yes, Your Honor. First the knife mix-up, and now the Blue Badger? This should be interesting. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed towards both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. And just then, there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the Blue Badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. What? That doesn't make sense, but okay. This is certainly most unusual. Yeah, you're telling me. Try impossible. The head detective of criminal affairs didn't even design him until this year. So he must have seen this drawing and based it off of that? That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago? Yes, well, the defense may now... Stop, please. Don't pursue this any further. Lana? What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair. But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that? Chief Prosecutor Skye. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back. Lana, what are you trying to hide? The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant. Seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. Alright, Emma, what do you recall? Alright, so you saw that man raise his knife. You panicked and rushed towards both of them. Why did you do that? That's kind of dumb. Why would you do something so dangerous? What else could I have done? He was about to stab Mr. Marshall. She seemed convinced that Drake was the one holding the knife, or Dark, rather. But as we've just theorized, Mr. Marshall was the one holding the knife. Well, I didn't know that at the time. When that Dark guy knocked me down, all I could think was, I've got to help Mr. Marshall. You think you knocked away the man with the knife? Okay. What do you mean, you think? It all happened so fast, and I was in shock. I don't remember everything clearly. What I did, it's all kind of a blur. In a matter of just a few seconds, Miss Skye was almost killed. Then, she witnessed a murder about to take place. A little disorientation is only natural. I saw the man about to stab the other person, who I thought was Mr. Marshall. I knew I had to stop the man with the knife. What you did was very brave, young girl. So then, what happened next? Alright, you say you saw the Blue Badger. Are you sure about this? Of course. See? I even drew a picture of him here. But the head detective of criminal affairs thought up this hideous beast. And that was just this year. The Blue Badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable. I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I'd seen him before somewhere. Now I finally remember. Oh, brother. Just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion. Tell us, where in the room did you see him dancing? Alright, so you say he wasn't in the room, but you're sure you saw a shadow. His shadow. So you mean you didn't actually see his face, with its winning smile and all? That's right, but I still remember it. He had 3 creepy horns. This is pointless. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken. That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think she saw what she did. Oh? And I suppose you have an explanation. If so, then by all means, please tell us what the shadow really was. What was it Emma saw when that lightning flashed? Who is this Blue Badger really? I just might know. The Blue Badger hadn't been dreamed up when Emma drew this picture. Yet she's certain she saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the defense's belief that on that fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the Blue Badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room. What? Mr. Wright? In this room? Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that the witness saw in that instant? Please, show us this mysterious Blue Badger look like. Alright, we've got to scrutinize for evidence now. So obviously it is none of this shit. None of that could be looking like the Blue Badger. Not gonna be anything like that. Screwdriver. The unstable jar. None of this looks like a fucking badger. Hold up. Alright, I can't do what I wanted to do with it. But, oh wait, no I can. What if you just did that? It doesn't look exactly like the Blue Badger, but it's got 3 creepy horns. Looks more like a Smurf, but whatever, maybe it'll work. The mysterious Blue Badger was in fact this. But that's... what exactly is that? I believe it's some sort of jar. But, Mr. Wright, it doesn't look like anything like the Blue Badger. Indeed, it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint? Our viewpoint? We've got to show them the correct angle to look at this from. Oh, almost had it. Went too far. Hey, Judge, what you think? Oh, wait, maybe I need to have it be right side up, actually. No, I think it's... I'm going to try it from this direction. This is what makes more sense to me. Allow me to remind the defense, its case hinges on the witness's drawing. If Mr. Wright can't match the shape the witness drew, we cannot accept his claim. I've got to find just the right angle. Maybe I should rotate it vertically a bit more, or horizontally? Come on, Mr. Wright. Okay. I thought... Oh, wait a minute. Maybe like this? Oh, that don't look like it makes sense either. Oh wait, hold on. Well... none of this makes sense to me. Oh shit! There it is! Well, is this a miracle? Or what? No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the blue badger. No, it can't be! Oh, but it is. You can't deny it, Edgeworth. The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious blue badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this. Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? So that badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Indeed? Very well then. Please tell us. What's different now that we know the witness saw the jar? Not the murder weapon. Not only it changes the murder, it doesn't change the location either. What does it supposed to fucking change? We've already proven that neither of these two things were what we thought they were before. It's not Joe Dark's knife, it's not Joe Dark. It's Neil. Well, Neil attempted to murder Joe, and somebody else killed Neil. But let's try the location, I guess. Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. Not only that, but she saw it at a very specific angle. Knowing this, where could she have seen this jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. Oh shit, yeah. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant. But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified so herself. Yes, and it is these two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room, in Chief Gant's office. Why though? Are you implying the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason. Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright? I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now, tell me, what could have sent the jar flying? That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit? Ah! The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous looking sword. I fucking knew that armor was suspicious. God damn it. Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the Prosecutor's Award. No. Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking. Yes. There is another possibility of what actually transpired in that room. Another possibility. Of course, the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless. I don't know if I can go through with this. Mr. Wright, what's the matter? If events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, Assuming the man Emma Sky knocked away was actually a prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. I see now. This is why Lana was being so protective. Emma's the reason. You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? I mean, it's not technically your fault. You didn't know, but also yes. I never imagined her testimony would lead to this. So it was the witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented. What? What are you saying? I'm sorry, Miss Sky, but given the circumstances, Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her? We're not trying to pin it on her, we're just saying that this is what's happening. Like, it wasn't technically her fault. She didn't know. She thought she was saving him from a serial killer. Come on. Imagine that, coming from you. If you recall, Miss Sky, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, wasn't it? I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall? Evidence? I'm willing to bet you don't. Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this without evidence. If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony. I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead. You certainly can't get dead people to testify. That would never happen. Imagine how crazy it would be if you could ask the dead how they were killed. Oh, wait. We can. Unfortunately, we don't have a Fae here with us. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. Touché, Ms. Sky. Of course, that only leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility? What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? I mean, the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left the name of the person who took his life, somehow. That's impossible. Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist? Oh, I've got to think back to the court record. The real murderer's name the victim may have left behind is in the evidence. This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer? Again, she didn't mean to do it. She thought she was saving Marshall. I'm not calling her a murderer, goddamn. Do not be mistaken, Miss Sky. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. Thank you, Edgeworth. Good God. There's only one thing we seek. The truth. No matter how painful it may be. Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased. So, we have the strip of cloth, which has Emma's prints on it. That doesn't necessarily say that she did anything. Then there's the jar, which has blood traces on it. See if we can read anything about them here. The dark red stains will see blood traces from the incident 2 years ago. Only the fragments found in Chief Gant's office still has lines remaining on it. See, that's the weird thing. They are lines of blood, not splotches, not blobs, but lines. This is the message left by the deceased. This is that blue badger from before, right? Oh, is he going to just speak the killer's name? If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar. A message was left here, on the surface of this jar. What do you mean? If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar. It looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice, for some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away. Yes, there is a line here, drawn in blood. So, what you're saying is these dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away. But blood must have seeped into the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these points, and the victim's message will become apparent. No! Lana, you got no say anymore. Pipe it down. Mr. Wright, what kind of message does the victim leave for us? Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal to us the answer. I've got to connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written given the circumstances. The murderer's name. So, let's connect the dots. Oh, you get to drop it there. I don't get to actually just draw it. The unfortunate thing here is that it's kind of easy to tell when you're looking at the middle and the left letter here that it spells out. Oh, I guess I can't connect that. Okay. Emma. Really bothers me that I can't connect this part of the E, but okay. It's a defense attorney's duty to prove his client's innocence. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all, my efforts? After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Emma. So, this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind. Of all people, she may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Skye. Well, that explains a few things. See, Worthy, can't say I didn't warn you. Chief Gant, do you understand the implications of what you've done? What? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in that case, were you not? Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction. Ah! Edward didn't know. But Joe Dark really was a serial killer. That's undeniable. I'm afraid that's not important. Didn't you know we aren't defenders of justice? What? We are merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. Even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery. Ultimately, the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite what anyone may say, this fact cannot be denied. What's going on at the prosecutor's office? They might have sent an innocent man to his death. How can he just stand there like it wasn't his fault? Order! 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 The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. Alright, everybody, that is going to be the end of another episode here. The court case is continuing. All we've managed to prove so far is that Emma killed Prosecutor Marshall? But what does that have to do with the rest of this case? I guess we'll have to find out next time. See you all then, everyone. Bye.